Well, hello and welcome, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you today to talk about the value driven business analyst, both what that means for us and our profession, and my forthcoming book, which will not have this little gray bar. This is just a review copy, but I'm super excited to have at least a print version. But we'll talk a little bit about the book in a minute. First, I would love to know who's joining us and where you are joining from. And that also lets me know that the chat is working or that the live stream is working. So if you can please let us know in the chat where you are joining from, that would be great. And just that you can hear me and see me and all the things are working. So while we're waiting for that to come in, just a little bit about me. I know often for these, this might be your first experience live with me or on a Bridging the Gap webinar or presentation. And so if you are new here, you are in the right place. I'm so glad to have you here. And if you have been here around for a while, I'm excited to have you too. It's always great to reconnect. All right. Perfect example, Beverly. So great to see you. You've been working with Bridging the Gap for a long time in a variety of ways. So great to see you, and welcome, Laura V. All right, from Manchester, UK. Already, we've got 2 countries represented. It's always great to have a variety of perspectives. And we've got Mohammed from Rwanda, Gwen from Idaho, Dhruv from the Greater Toronto area. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so just a little bit about me and Bridging the Gap. So I started Bridging the Gap back in 2008. We're going on 17 years of being in business, and really I just started it as a blog that was answering questions about business analysis. And that led me to publishing my first book, which was How to Start a Business Analyst Career, which I first put just in a PDF format. And then about 10 years ago, created the second edition, which is this version of the real kind of print version, also available on Kindle and other digital formats as well. And then started to offer virtual training for business analysts. And that was well before virtual training was the norm. In the early days of Bridging the Gap, I was consulting and contracting as a BA. And prior to that, I was in QA. I had moved into a BA role, and then eventually was the director of a business analyst, project management, and quality assurance team at a company where we acquired 5 or 6 companies and merged their technology together. So I've seen BA from many different angles and perspectives, and I try to bring that all into my work as well as into the writing in my books. So if you are new here, we do have a lot of resources on our website, bridgingthegap.com/hyphens, including the book, the current book, and the new book. As well as on our YouTube channel and on our blog. There's just a ton of free resources on there. So be sure to check that out. And please do also follow me on LinkedIn. Let me just check back at the comments. Welcome from Silver Spring, Maryland. Gordon, welcome. Great to see you. Seen you a lot on LinkedIn lately. Somebody says, I'm excited because BA professionals are about value. A lot of misconception is that we're about technology. I have some stuff to share about that. All right, so let's dive into what we're here to talk about today. So, and why this book, why this message, not just the book, why this message about value-driven business analysis, why is it important now? Business analysis is a profession that, in my opinion, is still based on very foundational skills that haven't changed a lot in the last 15, 20 years, but a lot is also changing. So what are some of the things that are changing? And if you have some things that you're seeing, I'd love to hear that in the chat as well. Some of the things that I see are kind of the way Agile is working. So Agile and Agile transformations, of course, are nothing new. I talk about my first experience with an Agile transformation well over 10 years ago. It's part of the introduction of the book. But Agile practices right now are both taking root as sort of just the default norm and also being challenged by like never before, right? So we're seeing a lot of backlash in the ways that Agile's not working like people expected it to, or like it was being sold like it would work. A lot of the promises of Agile, in my opinion, require good business analysis. And we're seeing the gaps of having the BA role sort of sidelined from agile practices. We're seeing those gaps materialize, and people are starting to fill them. And who are they filling them with? People with the business analysis skill set, right? So this is a place for us to, it's an opportunity for us to reinsert ourselves into the agile conversation, but with more intention, more strategic insight, in a value focused way. Another big shift is a shift towards more product centric organizations. And if you work in a product centric organization, I'd love to hear from you in the chat as well. This is where you shift from organizing work around projects to organizing work around a product, because products are how we deliver value, right? But you're still working through a series of incremental updates, change initiatives. Sometimes we're calling them projects on a product, right? And I believe that however however it lands, we're still kind of seeing in the infancy of a lot of these things, but we still need the best of a change and project focused mindset to how our organization manages change. So if that's in a product, we still need to bring the best of business analysis and how that works within. And also, business analysis has always been broader than projects. The book really looks at it from a project perspective, but some of the early steps really ensure that you take a bigger picture view. That's just another change to be aware of, and another potential area for business analysts to really position themselves as being able to add value. And then, not to save the least for last, but really to save the most impactful for last. Wonder if anyone can guess what that one might be. The elephant in the room, or not so much the elephant in the room, of course, AI, right? We can't overlook AI. This has the potential to shift everything and is shifting the skill set needed to be a business analyst. It's also going to strengthen our skill set and give us opportunities to apply this foundational skill set in ways that we never had possible before. So it's going to shift how we do our work as business analysts and how our organizations deliver value, how other roles in the organization do their work. And like any technology, AI as a solution will only deliver business value when we put it into context and understand what problems we are trying to solve and what opportunities we're trying to take advantage of, right? So this requires what? Business analysis. AI is opening a huge opportunity for BAs to step in as leaders and change agents, because not everybody is talking about the business value of AI. The conversation is in the technology. But when you start to put an AI agent into some sort of workflow, what do you need? You need a business process. You need to understand how a human being is going to interact with that system. And some of the areas change, but that does not mean that business analysis is not needed. Like, some of the nuances of how we do business analysis might change, but the core foundational pieces of what we need to do are essential. Okay, so huge opportunity. So I would love to hear from you. Actually, I want to share this quote first from Scott Amler. So Scott Amler is a leader in data transformations and reviewed an early copy of The Value-Driven Business Analyst. And one of the tidbits he provided in his endorsement was this: business analysis is a critical skill for all software professionals, and it's one of the few that will survive the changes being wrought by AI. Right? So we might feel threatened by AI. It's actually a huge opportunity, and it's going to make the skills we have more important than ever. Now, all of this being said, we still face a lot of challenges and a lot of misperceptions. So yes, we're at this inflection point, this moment for BAs where I think we have the opportunity to really become more intentional, more value driven, and really solidify ourselves individually and as a profession to be not just relevant, but essential. But we also have some misperceptions. So first of all, before I get to the misperceptions, can you let me know if this is tracking with your experience? Are these things that you're experiencing too, that there's these shifts and that brings some new opportunities for BA? We've got this share excited because BA professionals are all about value, a lot of misconceptions about technology and the role itself. So we're going to get to that here in just a minute. And then Gordon shares, interesting you mentioned that. On my last contract, the BAs use Copilot to derive test cases for features. Yeah, so it's a great productivity enabler, and I'm going to share with you some of the things in the book as well around AI. But is that idea that these changes, kind of the world we're living in, create some opportunity and allow us to start a new kind of conversation? That's sort of what we're focused on today, or that inflection point. Somebody says, you're spot on, Laura. Thank you. There's always a little bit of delay in this too. So sometimes when you ask these questions, you got to wait a moment for the answer. So thank you for that. Okay. So, and as you're thinking about that, like how that lands, let's also talk about the misperceptions that you might face as a business analyst. So feel free to share something that comes up for you in the chat. Some of the ones that I often hear are, sorry, I lost my place in my notes. Okay, here we go. Some of the ones that I often hear is that the BA role is misunderstood or undervalued, right? So BAs are frequently brought in late and told to, quote unquote, gather the requirements. We're treated as a glorified note taker, which really strips the role of its strategic impact. One of our early founding readers, so about a month ago, I started a founding reader circle who've accessed just the first few chapters of the book early. And someone said, I've seen BAs turned into note takers as if that's their main purpose, when taking notes is really a means to an end, right? So that's a huge misperception that we're just there to take notes. Couldn't be further from the truth. Taking notes can be a great thing, and there's ways to use it in a powerful way from a career perspective, but it's certainly not the end all be all of business analysis. Another misperception or challenge I see people face is that there's this super incredibly intense pressure to move fast. And often that comes at the expense of clarity and sound decision making. So we just like barrel ahead and hope that we got the initial part right, or like hope we're headed in the right direction when we might be going exactly the opposite direction of where we really want to be going. So in that rush to deliver, we skip the foundational analysis. And then we don't ever have an alignment around expectations, and often that leads to a lot of rework. One of our founding readers said, BAs often get blamed for slowing down projects when the business involves us later than they should have, right? So this actually puts the onus back on the business. They involved us later than we should have. We're really coming in to clean things up and put the project back on track, but it feels like we're slowing things down. And I have several passages in the book where I talk about slowing down to speed up, kind of creating intentional pauses, kind of articulating why these early steps, these early decisions actually speed things up in the long run. Feels slower in the beginning, but it's faster and more effective in the long run. Okay. Next up is that many BAs also feel stuck and overwhelmed by reactive work with no clear growth path. So without a clear framework or understanding of value, you can risk becoming an order taker or kind of doing a really defined or constrained aspect of the role. And here we had one of our founding readers said, with all the emerging technology advances, the emphasis on value is getting lost in translation. Another thing that came up in our Blueprint office hours call last week was around, what do we do when stakeholders are so solution focused, right? So they just know this, like, I want this solution to be put in place. And it's so hard to extract the why or extract the business objectives out of them? And how do we actually help them have that conversation about the why and get agreement about the why, and then explore alternate solutions? And it's specifically now, like, there's so many new technologies, like, oh, I want that, I want that, I want that, right? It's like this menu of options. How do we actually ensure that that drives real business value? And that's what the BA is all about. But that conversation is sort of, we're facing a lot of friction with, well, we can do anything with technology, right? There's so many cool new tools out there. So, there's a lot of friction in that. All right, I'm going to look at your comments. I saw a lot coming in. Let's see. We've got Roselle who says, I can totally relate. More product owner thinking is required. Yes, definitely. Like, even if we are not a product owner, we need to be thinking more strategically and bigger picture. Sandra says it's great to streamline, but we still need our input for sure. They allow us to work smarter and not harder. Great. That's my quote about the note-taking rule. Awesome. Great to have you. You're showing up as LinkedIn user for me, but great to have you. Yeah, I didn't identify anyone because I didn't get permission, but I wanted to share them anonymously. Stephanie says we use an AI tool to take notes and just remove that from the equation. That's a great approach too. Beverly says the same. I also now have AI that can take notes. Let's see. Sandra says, sometimes it depends on the culture of the organization and how they have positioned the role of the BA. Absolutely. So I'm so glad you brought this into the perspective, because we can take it all on ourselves to be like, think we have to change the world, right? And often we do. We're kind of world changers and they're excited about creating change, and we see the potential to create a better world. Within our organizations, we see the potential of the BA. That doesn't mean that the culture in our organizations is necessarily lining up with that. And there are ways that we can focus. Like the book, I would say, is mostly about the ways of what we can do and what we can control about how we position our value, how we act in a value-driven way, how we ask the right questions, how we do our best to shape perceptions. But the culture of an organization is going to limit how well that work really takes root. So think of it like soil. If you plant a seed in dirt or sand, it may or may not sprout. It needs to have a certain amount of nutrients. You go and mix in some great compost and create some great soil. But people who know me know I love a good agriculture or environmental metaphor, right? And then that seed can take root. You got to water it. It needs sunshine. Well, the seed doesn't need sunshine, but the sprout does. So there's a lot of factors. And so if you are kind of doing all the right things, but your culture isn't supporting it, you might be a seed that's planted in the wrong soil. And there's, only so much you can do to grow in some of those environments. So thank you for bringing in that point. Roselle says BAs are still seen as simply IT people and not actually people with business analysis skills. We can apply ourselves in different contexts and different scenarios, certainly. So like being able to show your business perspective and show the resilience and ability you have to switch contexts is really important as well. Okay. This is an interesting one. Gustavo says BAs are only needed at the beginning of a project is a common myth. So that, we'll talk about the whole 8-step process that founds the book, but it starts at the beginning. It's kind of interesting. A lot of people feel they're brought in too late. But yes, the idea that maybe they're only needed to kickstart the project, and then the value, but like that value really comes as we get through the details and ensure the business and the technology team implement the solution, right? So there is a continuity there that needs to be handled, whether it's by the business analyst or a team of business analysts that do that. So that's really, really great insight. Thank you for bringing that in. Okay. So I think this is where I want to share a few slides. Also helps me keep on track. Kind of like to mix that up. All right, 1 second. All right. apologize for the second. Oh boy. Sorry, I've had so many things ready, but it's been a while since I've done this on Zoom or on StreamYard. Oh, share screen. There it is. I knew there was a share screen. All right. Thanks for bearing with me. Okay. So you should see the slide now. And what I really want to speak to is we have talked about, I just covered it up. We've talked about some of the challenges. We've talked about the opportunity, like why we're at this inflection point. What does it mean to be a value-driven business analyst? And so that's what I want to talk about, and we'll talk about how the book can help with that as well. So really, this is the Business Analyst Manifesto. I authored it when I first started Bridging the Gap. It's stood the test of time for nearly 17 years. Out of chaos, we create order. Out of disagreement, we create alignment. But out of ambiguity, we create clarity. But most of all, we create positive change for the organizations we serve. Right, so just one way to really think about our value, but let's break this down into a few key principles. So one that I bring a lot of attention to in the book is that clarity and alignment are more important than documentation. Documentation is not the goal of business analysis. Clarity and alignment are the goals, helping the business stakeholders clarify what they want, ensuring their vision is complete, detailed, and represents a desired understanding of the solution, and then communicating this vision to the implementation team or including them in it are the goals, right? So value-driven BAs focus on the why behind the work and ensure everyone is going in the same direction. We drive decisions, not documents. So that's a key principle to value-driven business analysis. Another key principle is that a structured approach enables strategic thinking. So the best BAs don't just react, right? And don't just try to figure out things as they go along. They work intentionally, they choose the right techniques at the right time, and they guide initiatives towards a meaningful outcome. So this is a quote from Tony Martin, who also was one of my instructors at one point at Bridging the Gap, and has reviewed the book. And she said, Laura's 8-step process is that system, the system that creates value. It gives business analysts a clear sequential roadmap they can apply to any kind of project in any environment to consistently deliver value and drive alignment. So I want to juxtapose this of what I just said of documentation is not the goal, because a lot of times people hear process, repeatable, structure, and they think output, templates, documentation, right? This is not about templates or really the documented output of our work. It's about having a way of approaching discovery, analysis, design, implementation, and taking that initial idea through to a solution to a business challenge. So, do you have a structured approach today? Do you have a way or a set of questions or a way you go from kind of the most ambiguous potential request all the way through to the end in delivering that as a solution to that request, right? Think about that. Do you have a structured approach? I think that's key to being able to deliver value and having a value-driven mindset. And the third and final principle I want to share, there's a lot more that we could pull from the book, but in the interest of brevity, I wanted to just focus on a few, is that competence comes from creating value. So when we think about the culture and how that culture can certainly kind of make it more challenging to deliver value and be appreciated for value, it's totally true. But also, you have to understand and appreciate your own value first. Then others will start to see it in you. It starts with you, not necessarily something external shifting or changing. When you see yourself as the driver of alignment and change, not just as a requirement gatherer, you start to show up with authority and clarity and purpose. And this mindset is often what it takes for a BA to go from kind of overlooked to being seen as indispensable. So this is a quote from Kira, where her story, and I share her story again in the book, and this was part of when she participated in the Business Analyst Blueprint training program that we offer, is that she used to be really paralyzed by fear of taking up people's time and who to even copy on an email, because she was just did not want to waste people's time. But when she went through the program and started to understand how she could use the skill set and the structured approach, and like really believed in the value of that, it wasn't about who was getting on that email chain. It was like, what do I need to do to make sure I deliver this value? And does that person need to get this communication? And if so, of course I'm going to add them. I'm not afraid of taking up their time. I'm more afraid of not delivering the value. And it was an essential mindset shift that gave her that internal confidence and allowed her to start showing up differently as well. And so, that's another principle in terms of that value creating mindset. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share this slide and then go back and take a look at the chat to see if anything's come in. Looks like we're good so far. All right, so if you have questions or anything resonates, I always love to see your reactions and hear your questions as we go through. Okay, so let's now talk about, this is the business analysis process framework. It's the foundational 8-step business analysis process that we teach at Bridging the Gap. We've been teaching it for probably close to 12 years now, maybe longer. And it is the foundation of the book. So there is a chapter on each and every step of this process in the book, as well as the integration of different techniques, which I'll talk about in a minute. And this process really emerged from my real world consulting, mentoring, personal experience, navigating both traditional and agile environments. And by looking what I did, I actually had resistance at one point that there could be a repeatable process for a BA. Who's experienced that? Like, no, every project is different. And yes, every project is different. But when I sat down and went through all kinds of big projects, big and small, I went through, like handling maintenance requests, big multi-year projects that failed, projects that succeeded beyond our wildest dreams, projects that were internal to the business, projects that deliver products, right? I had all these different kind of scenarios that I had done throughout my career. And I looked at kind of what I had done. And then this is where the 8-step process came from, was looking at all those, evaluating those processes, analyzing those projects. And now it's been leveraged by thousands of course participants who are using it to be more valued and effective in their work as business analysts as well. And this is really, in the book, it's the first time I've ever covered the process in this much detail and as an accessible way as it is, right? Mostly people have come through our courses to get this level of detail. And I just want to say that the process itself is structured enough to give you confidence, but also flexible enough to adapt to different organizations, different domains, different methodologies, whether that's an agile or a product or a value stream, right? You get to pick and choose how you adapt it, but it's the mindset of how you approach your work that you leave with at the end. So just to the point of like where it starts and where it ends, it starts with the getting oriented, what do I need to do here? What's my role? And then we look at what are the business objectives? What is the why behind this project? What is the scope of what we're dealing with? What is our business analysis plan, or how we're going to detail that scope? What are the detailed requirements, the detailed analysis, what most of us think of as the quote unquote BA work? And then we shift to how do I support the technical implementation so they can be successful? How do I ultimately help the business own and implement the solution on their end so that at the end of the day, they're achieving those business objectives that they said they wanted to at the beginning? And then taking a step back and looking at the value that was created by the solution and celebrating those results. So that's kind of a nutshell of the business analysis process. And then the next slide is the business analyst blueprint framework. So within the book, In our course, we teach each of these levels, the business level, software level, information level, as distinct modules. We have different courses for each of them. In the book, they're sprinkled throughout. So for example, in Getting Oriented, we have I think that glossary. Yeah, the glossary is a technique and focus. You can kind of see it right here, the sample glossary. That's the technique and focus for the Getting Oriented chapter. In chapter 2, on discovering the business objectives, that's where we look at how to create a process map. So the techniques are sprinkled throughout and are integrated into the process flow. So it's a different way of organizing the material than is typically presented in our courses. And then while the book is most certainly not about AI, I don't want to give anyone that expectation that it's an AI intensive book. I couldn't resist including it in some way. The AI sort of took off when I was in the middle of writing the book. So there was a sense of like, how do I incorporate what's happening with AI in a meaningful way without completely, revisiting the book before the next change comes, right? So what I did is each chapter has suggestions of how to leverage AI for more productivity and there's also a whole discussion of how to consider it as a solution option when you're evaluating solutions as part of your scope. So this is just a screenshot of this review copy of the book. And one of the early reviewers said, I find these AI callouts to be really a valuable addition. And they're really like the balance we've struck feels right, meaning like the BA is still in charge, right? It's how do I use AI to augment what I do as a business analyst versus replace it? How do I maintain my sense of what business analysis need to do and not kind of hand that over to AI, right? So they're more like practical nudges of how we can use it meaningfully and integrate it into our process. All right. That is the end of the slides. So I'm going to kind of come back here. Nope. All right. Let's see. Beverly, that was a great mind shift for Kieran, an inspirational one. Yeah, I don't know that I'll ever stop sharing that story. So thank you for that. And Gustavo says, yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. All right. And great to see you here, Gustavo. All right. Let's see. So we've talked about what's in the book. We've talked about why it's important, some of the challenges BAs face, and really just want to share a few reader reflections from our founding reader circle. And then we're going to I'm going to open it up to Q&A. So we should have a lot of time if you have questions about the book, if you have questions about the book writing process. I'll share some reflections as well as let you know how you can get your copy if you'd like. Feel free to get those in the chat. So one of the, I want to say, I started this founding reader circle not quite knowing what would happen and how even to put it together. And just to help people get the word out about the book. And the first question I asked was, what's one takeaway that you've had from the first 3 chapters? And the conversation that has emerged from that question alone has really blown me away. Like I really had to sit with it for a while and really digest what everyone had to share. I wasn't, you work on something and you get in your own head for so long, and I wasn't really expecting it to have that much resonance, right? Of course, you hope that they do, but you just never really know how things are going to land. So one person has shared, a main takeaway has been simply pausing to reflect on how I actually work. This has helped me see how I do bring structure, even when it feels intuitive or agile in the moment. And this is a senior BA from New Zealand who's been doing this for years, right? And I think I know a lot of people in this frame of mind. I was in myself in this frame of mind when I started to try to figure out how do I teach what I know about business analysis to others and put together this framework, right? And so just giving yourself that gift of wow, what do I do and how does it work? And where am I applying structure that I might have been doing intuitively? And having a book like this to point out some of that structure can really help you become more self aware of what your success practices are. So, really loved this takeaway. Another one was what stands out to me is the structured approach she proposes. Having a solid framework to rely on makes a real difference, especially in a dynamic and unpredictable role. So there's this tension here, right? Of we have structure, consistency, along with dynamic and unpredictable. The structure holds us, it allows us to ground ourselves. Okay, right now I'm in step 2 with a little bit of step 3, or no, I'm actually in step 5, but we need to revisit step 2 because things have changed, right? Just having that kind of grounding and structure can hold us even when kind of the world seems so chaotic or the project seems so chaotic. It can help us deal with the unpredictability, the dynamic, the nature, the fast-paced nature of change, and kind of give us that solid foundation to work from. I really love that takeaway as well. And then another one, I'm currently redefining the BA space and educating the organization on the value we provide. The parts about cultivating credibility and consistency amongst the team hit home. And this is from a BA manager in the US. So here it's like if you are in a managerial or leadership role or want the practice within your organization to really grow and establish more credibility, you're not going to ever get to the point where every BA is like a robot doing the same exact thing, right? Everybody has their own style, their own way of doing things, their own nuances they bring to the role. But having a general approach that you all share and draw from and refer back to will help your business analysis practice feel more consistent. Also will help you work better together as a team. So some things to be thinking about if you're in more of a leadership role. Okay. So, what are your questions? Feel free to add those to the chat. And I'm also going to share, kind of to close things up, a few kind of takeaway tips, like some quick tips of things you can do to become more value driven in your work day to day. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and share in the chat how you can get your copy. So you can go ahead and pre-order. So what's available right now, this is the review copy of the print edition. There was a bit of an error here. So we're literally still putting the final pieces together. So the print version is going to be available to order starting July 15th. So just a few weeks from now. What we're offering right now is a pre-order deal on the Kindle version of this same book. So you are able to get that for $2.99 USD. If you are on a different Amazon, we've got links to all the different countries on that page of bridgingthegap.com/value. And Amazon converts the currency, so you're paying whatever $2.99 USD is in your currency. And then you will automatically get the Kindle version delivered to whatever Kindle device you have or Kindle piece you have on July 15th when the book is officially published. In the meantime, when you go back and into this same URL, there's like step 1, buy the book. Step 2, get your receipt. Step 3, there's a form where you can opt in to register your purchase with us, because we don't see anybody's purchase details on Amazon, so we don't know who bought the book and who didn't, right? So when you register your purchase with Bridging the Gap, you will receive complimentary access to the first 3 chapters for free, so you can download those and get started reading right away. You will also get to download the BA Success Pack that's mentioned several times throughout the book. It has a lot of annotated templates that you can use to kind of apply some of the principles in the book. So you'll get that. And you'll also get a seat in a bonus session that I'm running on July 23rd called the something implementation lab. The name is not coming to me quickly, but we're basically going to go through this 8-step process and help you diagnose where are your best opportunities to apply value-driven practices in your business analysis work. It'll be a 90-minute session where we'll do that analysis together, have some breakout rooms to share, and have a lot of discussion and time for questions as well. Absolutely free with your book purchase when you register your book purchase. If Kindle is not for you, no worries. You can wait until the print book comes out on July 15th, order your print book and get those same bonuses at that time. That point, the first 3 chapters won't be as relevant because your book would be in the mail. So that is what is available right now. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and look at what has come in the comments. All right. So I'd love for you to order a copy. If you have any questions about that process, please let me know. Sheena says, I ordered on Amazon yesterday. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, the other thing I totally forgot. Big thank you. We actually, we achieved a Amazon bestseller status, like the actual orange badge, just today. Yesterday, we got that in Australia, and today that came for the US as well. So, yeah, super excited. Thank you for all your pre-orders. That would not have happened without all the pre-orders that have come in and all the sharing that people from the Founding Reader Circle have done to get the book out to more people. Okay, Gustavo says, loving the AI callouts. Practical examples are always great to learn in advance. Very cool. Thank you for that. I'm glad that they are landing. Let's see. Lucy says, I ordered yesterday too. Thank you so much. All right. And Beverly says it comes to $404 Canadian. Yeah, I think it's $220 pounds if you're in the UK. Yes, Roselle says it's a steal at $2.99. I agree. Like, actually, at this point, so I've heard several people like call it equivalent to the price of a low-cost coffee, and that it's actually like sitting with me in a really weird way. So like, I know we've really only underpriced this piece at this point in this moment during the pre-order process. It will not be this price again, and I can really stand behind that. It feels a little wonky already. It's like, oh, we're really underselling the value of what's in here. I mean, this is years and decades of work that I put into the book. But I also really wanted to make it give people an accessible way to get started with the material. And what I'm receiving from this is the momentum behind the book on Amazon, that really the sales help drive that so that it will be more available and more visible on Amazon to people who aren't familiar with me and Bridging the Gap and don't see the LinkedIn posts and the kind of cool things that are happening. So that is also the case. Naima says, I will order the book via Amazon tomorrow. Awesome. Thank you so much. No worries, Beverly. We'll see you again soon. Yes, thank you. Okay, so feel free, again, if you have any other questions or reflections that you want to get in, feel free to get those in. But I did want to leave you with just a few extra tips as well. So we've been talking a lot about a lot of big picture concepts, right? And there's a ton of actionable guidance in the book. Even in the first few chapters, you'll immediately receive when you purchase the Kindle copy. Most of the people in the Founding Reader Circle have just read the first few chapters as well. But I want to leave you with a few next steps and practical takeaways, things that you can do today, tomorrow, this week, next week to start bringing this mindset, this value-driven mindset to your work. So, number one, look at any document or template that you use. Is it essential? Is every part of it essential? How is it adding value? Do I really need to do this? And take some liberties. There's always that section that duplicates that other section, or that section that's in one document and duplicated in another document. How could you streamline some of your documentation? How could you improve it to ensure it's really achieving the decision and help building the momentum on the project that you're looking for? But just look at any standardized templates. What can you take away? That's one action item. A second one that I might land with you is to add a recap to your meeting. So we've all been, use an agenda for sure. Like, that's a big practice. So agenda would be one. But at the end of the meeting, after you've had all kinds of discussion, there's been some decisions, maybe some issues, maybe somebody has an action item, you probably have an action item. just take a moment to recap. Today, we talked about this, this, and this. We made this decision. We have this open issue. My next step is to, often that's update a deliverable or research something, right? My next step is to, I think I might have it done by, and you're doing a few things there. When you start to make a commitment and then deliver on that commitment, you're building trust because now you're the person who says who does what they say they're going to do. I know you're the person who does what they say they're going to do, but if you don't say you're going to do it, you don't have the opportunity to build the trust around it, right? So go ahead and do that. But also the recap shows people this was a valuable use of time, right? So many meetings we sit in, it's like, why are we here? What do we do? And to take that a step further, if you can link that recap of what you achieved in that meeting to the momentum of the project. And now as a team, we'll be able to, right? So you're linking it to the momentum. And it's just a way to kind of get people to see and notice the value that you've provided in that meeting without being like, hey, look at me, I'm so awesome. It's more like, look at what we all just accomplished, and people will connect the dots for themselves. All right, the third one is to start a list of your wins, big and small. So keep track of every value creating moment, like cutting off an email chain or a Slack chain, right? Initiating an aha moment, asking that question that no one else thought to ask, uncovering a missed requirement, creating a visual model that everybody really resonates with. I tell the story in the book of using wireframes when use cases weren't landing, right? So what are those value creating moments? And the more you notice, the more you'll be able to notice. And it all starts with your own awareness, right? We talked about Kira's transformational shift. Your awareness builds more confidence, which also starts to change how you're perceived by others as you go. So if you would like to practice this now, I would love to hear a recent win for you in the chat, from you in the chat. It's a great way to just like anything great that you've done this week would be something great to offer. And it can be like the smallest possible thing, the place that you added value. All right. And while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and check for questions. All right. Gustavo says, are you able to provide us with a brief example of a project where a value-driven BA would or made a tangible difference, especially in the world of AI? Yeah. So just trying to a brief example of a project where a value-driven BA made a tangible difference. So gosh, every project, there's no way that you're not making a tangible difference. So one of the stories I shared in the book was my first project as a business analyst. And this was a ebook delivery platform. And we had so impact assessment was the way that I made the difference, because we had this business model where historically people just bought an online product from us that came with a set of content. We had this link between print and ebooks that they were buying to this database that was customized. And sort of nobody was really talking about how are we going to manage that like it was a whole different way to manage content access. And it's kind of normalized now. Like this is very normal thing to do. At the time in our company, it had never been done before. And it ended up involving getting alignment with a whole different area of the company that ran our ERP system, building a way to integrate with that ERP system. And, so that's a way of where I added value by doing an impact assessment. And most importantly, bringing that up early in the project, right? It wasn't like we waited till we were done with all the kind of fun and easy and obvious stuff, but like very early on, I don't think our current systems support this in the way that some assumptions are being made that they do. And like pushing that issue forward until it got some visibility. And that ended up allowing us to deliver on schedule, or as much on schedule as we would have, and not have to deal with that sort of at the end of the project. So that's like an example. Think of times maybe when you eliminated rework because you've discovered the right requirements early, where you got another very common example is when you analyze a business process, and because you're understanding the process, maybe you thought you needed to automate pieces of it with technology, but you actually were able to make the process itself better first, so that either the technology piece became unnecessary or a lot more minimal. So you've saved a lot of time as well. So that's not a brief example, right? That one took me a second to wrap my head around. And then I have all kinds of ideas. So hopefully those are helpful for you. Um, Gordon says, over and above the follow-up notes, I try to record each meeting and store it in a common project directory. So this is a win. Thank you, Gordon, that you're sharing a win. On larger projects, software implementation, there can be a lot of decisions made in a Scrum, and that helps for summaries. Yes. So having those documented summaries can also help you not have to revisit decisions, especially if you can query them or pull up those decisions. So it's a great way to add value and a great win. Congratulations. All right. Well, if you have a win that you think of after this, please message me. I love to receive your messages on LinkedIn. I would love to celebrate your wins with you. And again, the pre-order for the Value Driven Business Analyst is available for now at $2.99 USD, and you can go to the URL below to both get your copy and then register your purchase to get your bonuses as well. And I just want to say in closing, thank you so much for being here with me today, for being part of this work. This is really just the beginning. Pre-ordering now helps build momentum for this book across the world so that it can ultimately reach more people. And again, every like, comment, share on social or within your organization is also an absolutely amazing way to help spread the word. Thank you so much for all of you who have already helped share the word so much. Again, the full book is coming July 15th, and then we'll be hosting the Implementation Lab live for all early purchasers on July 23rd. And then we'll be taking this message across the world. I'm going to be speaking at IIBA chapters, book clubs, thinking about some things to do, building some community around the book going into the fall. So if there is something that you think might be a good fit, I would love to hear from you about that. But regardless, just thank you for being part of the journey and for doing your best in business analysis. We build our profession one business analyst at a time, and success starts with you. Thank you so much for being here and for doing the work you do. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.